Now let's write some code that lets us load content from the web server from JavaScript using AJAX. So we're going to use this to load the login dialog or the registration dialog when the user clicks on something in the nav bar. And we already have this calculator that launches a dialog when you click on a button. So let's start with that. And the first step is we need some back-end support in PHP, and then we'll need some front-end support in JavaScript as well. So for the PHP part, under includes, I'm going to create a new loadable content class. So new PHP file, loadable content. And this is going to be a class. And it's going to need some properties. So there's going to be a property for JavaScript, which is going to be empty to start with, two single quotes, and a property for HTML. And these should be private, so let me go ahead and fix that. And this one. And finally, we'll need some CSS. And then we'll need a constructor where we pass in these values. And let's go ahead and pass in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And all we're going to do in the constructor is save those values. And then we're going to need a method that sends the contents of this object back to JavaScript using JSON. So I'm going to call this method load. And it's not going to take any arguments. And it's basically going to do the same thing we were doing before when we were sending JavaScript content. So if we look at our do calculate, we see that it has to send a particular header to say that it's sending JSON back. And then it also wants to use JSON encode to send the object. And then here, the object is just this. So that should be it. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happens. So to use this, I need to create a loadable content object and then call the load method. So let's go ahead and create a new PHP file called calculator content. And it's going to require once our content loader, which is in the same folder, so LoadableContent.php. And then it's going to create a new loadable content object. And I have to pass in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So I'm going to set those separately. And then I'm going to call object pointer load. So now I just need to set JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And I'm going to use here doc for that. And then the JavaScript for the calculator is in calculator.js.php. So I'm going to go ahead and copy all that code, and in my calculator content, I'm just going to paste that in. So there's one problem with this, which is I can't put a PHP island inside of a here doc. So I want to use this constant instead, and there's a couple of different ways I can do it. So here's the first way. I can create a variable like volts key, and then use that variable right here, like so. So this will work. So let's go ahead and do that for the rest of these. So we need out amps key and out watts key. Oops. And out ohms key. And then this is out ohms key. And out amps key. And out watts key. So that's all the PHP islands. Now for the HTML, that's going to be right here. That div. So I'm just going to cut that out of there. And in my calculator content, I'm going to create $HTML equals the here doc for HTML. And once again, I have to do the same thing here. So I'm going to keep all these constants together. So I have out volts, out ohms, out amps, out watts already. I also need in volts and in ohms. And then what I'm going to do to make this a little easier is I'm going to find and replace. And I'm going to use regular expression matching. So let's try question mark is a special character in regular expression, so I have to use backslash to escape that. PHP echo, and then I want to grab everything up to the semicolon. So this means the set of characters that does not include semicolon, and then 0 more of those. And then the paren is used to grab whatever this matches. And then semicolon, space, another escaped question mark, and the closing angle bracket. So that's going to match everything from this angle bracket to this angle bracket, and it's also going to save whatever matched in this position. And then what I'm going to replace that with is, unfortunately, I need to get this to lower. There's no easy way to do that in pattern matching, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it with just $. So once again, $sign is a special character in regular expression, so I'm going to escape that to get a literal $. And then $1 is the first thing that matched. So this replaces this whole thing with that thing. And I'm going to replace. Oops. Actually, I didn't quite want to do that. I need my curly brackets. So let's go ahead and add curly brackets. There. So replace. Okay, so now all I need to do is get this into lowercase. So let me see if there's a way of doing that in PHP Storm. PHP Storm lowercase. Toggling case. Control-Shift-U toggles case. So Control-Shift-U, Control-Shift-U, and so on. Alright, so there's the HTML, and then the last thing we need is the CSS. And I had that in calculator.css.php. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut all of that and then paste it into calculator content. So that should be the JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. For the JavaScript, I already have that over there now, so I'm going to get rid of that. So this is empty, calculator.js.php, this is empty, calculator.css.php, and then in the calculator.php file, I don't have any of the HTML for the dialog. I think I need one more thing. I need to require once my calculator constants. So requiring loadable content and require once calculator constants. And now I should be able to access this page. So I'm going to access it through AJAX, but just for testing purposes, I'm going to try loading it directly into the browser. So let's go localhost CIS 295p share assets includes calculator content.php. Okay, so that didn't quite work. And it's encoding the object, but it's not encoding any of the properties. And the reason is because I made them private. So in my loadable content class, I have to actually make these public for JSON encode to see them. So let's try that. So if it's private, only methods inside the class can actually access them. And since JSON encode is defined outside of this class, can't see them when they're private. Let's try now. Yeah, so there it goes. So that's the PHP side along with the calculator object.